Hello there, YouTube. How are we all doing today? I am, well, I've been drinking, so I'm not really going to be bothering about normal etiquette today. I have the voice of one with me today. Normally, you would say hello at that point. I have Jensen Quinn with me. No, you've wasted your time now. You can wait. I've got
Hello.
Jensen Quinn with me, and we've got Crumple Point as well.
Good evening.
The only one to do it on time.
Yay.
I'm being oppressed because I'm Irish.
You're being oppressed because you're white.
How do you
I'm a
know?
masochist. I'm a masochist, all right? I'm going to press everybody that's white, including myself. Well, that got the stream off to an extremely good start. Has anybody got anything to say? I mean, obviously, we've got Voice of One's video that we could rip the piss out of for about 10 minutes, but has anybody got anything to actually say or add to conversation at all?
You're a cunt.
That is adding to the conversation. I will accept that as your input.
Nah, just generalized hello everybody and good luck.
For what?
The insanity that may well be coming.
There's insanity coming. There's definitely insanity coming. I'm turning into Mad Dodge. Though, to be fair, I'm not slurring my words yet, so I'm okay.
I like the word yet.
Yet. Well, I've got a pint glass that's got half Jack in it and half Coke in it, so we'll see how the stream ends. If I remember to actually close the stream down. But, yeah, that's fine. So, what's everybody been doing today on Bank Holiday Monday for us Brits?
Well, I've been pissing and moaning at the fact it's a bank holiday. Because I didn't know it was a bank holiday, so I've just been going about my day as normal, except everything had been shut.
Didn't the first shop that you went to kind of give it away that it's not a normal day?
No, because it's Britain. Nowhere has normal opening hours.
That's fair.
Yeah. Whatever.
You go to one town and it's just like, why is everything shut? And it's just like, well, this is the traditional day that we've shut everything since 1506. Like, well, could you fucking put a sign up or something?
That's fair enough. Has anybody been out drinking or barbecuing or anything else like that? Has anybody actually done something productive?
I made a video which
Yeah, that's not productive.
fuck you then.
No, I've been sitting around bitching and moaning at how bloody hot it is, but that's about it, really.
Well, at least you didn't piss on yourself, so that's one good thing.
Fair. No, I think that's about it for me.
This is like getting a blood out of stone. This is really like trying to get blood out of a stone. Right, I suppose I better move on to a story. See if we can actually talk about something. Oh.
Go on, then.
I'm getting there. I've got to read the fucker, innit I? So I've got to make sure everybody's seeing it.
Excuses.
Shut up. They're all whiny little bitches tonight. Zambia Library warns half-naked female students. Doesn't even bother to fucking finish the title on that one. But, yay.
It just warns them generally.
Yeah, just warn them in general, because all of Zambia's women are apparently naked.
No, half naked. Come on, play fair.
I'm not playing fair. I've been drinking. I don't need to play fair. One of Zambia's top universities, it would be a fucking university, wouldn't it, has urged female students to stop visiting the library half naked because it distracts male counterparts. University of Zambia is the capital of fuck that, has stuck up notices around its library telling them to dress more modestly. The southern African country is culturally conservative, or Christian. But students at the university tend to dress more fashionably, says the BBC's Kennedy Goodwin in Zimbabwe. That's the one.
Do they mean fashionably or like sluts?
To be fair, if you look at if I had to go back up and you look at the picture, she's not bad. I mean, she's quite conservative with that. To be fair, for this country, for our country, I've seen like belts as skirts.
Yeah, she's overdressed for the UK.
Exactly. She's not actually that bad. She's quite pretty as well, to be fair.
Listen to me, you sound like an old man.
Yeah.
You're getting these children dressing like sluts.
Back in my day, they'd wear a full dress and cover the ankles.
Oh, ankles.
Oh.
Well, I wouldn't go far back as that. I think the 50s, 60s look was the nice, knee-length pencil skirts. That way you got a sort of like a preview, but you always wondered what was further up.
Yeah, it's like a trailer, isn't it? It's like you got the teaser trailer or you got the main trailer, and sometimes the main trailer gives too much away.
Exactly.
Well, I've always liked my presents wrapped. I've never liked somebody just handing me something going, here, look at this. I want the excitement of trying to unwrap the fucker first.
So you want the burqa?
Depends on how much sellotape's around it.
And don't forget a little pink bow on the top.
No, there's no pink bow. I've accidentally dropped it and kicked it along the floor because it's from my long lost uncle that I'm not bothered about.
Creepy uncle, was he?
Well, he's given me a woman in a burqa, so it's kind of a case of very creepy.
Fair point. Fair point.
I've told you I've been drinking. I really don't care anymore.
It
has come to our attention that some female students dress half naked as they use the library, a situation which is disturbing the male students. The notice in the library reads, "We therefore advise the female students to dress modestly as you use university facilities. Modest is the way to go."
Can I just, before you go any further, can I just say thank you to our public service broadcaster for spending public money and basically stolen money on current event stories taking place in Zambia. I don't feel it would be serving its purpose as the British Broadcasting Corporation if we did not know what was going on in Zambia. I feel you would all agree with that.
See, now you're just being a cunt, because now it's just a case that we have to know these stories. These are the stories that are changing the university and changing the ways that people are thinking. It is now the Africans that are oppressing the females. We need to stop this. We need to rise up and do a petition or something, or I don't know.
Well,
no, but we can't, because we are the evil, evil British colonialists. So like, we can't. We want to defend the women, but we can't because we're evil colonialists. So we just have to shut up and give the BBC more money.
No, you see, I think we're looking at this wrong. I think we have to support the feminists here. We have to support the women. That way, since if they want to wear what they want, there's only one thing we have to do: keep them at home in the kitchen, and they can wear anything they want when they want.
Or in your case, the front room where you sit on it.
Oh, getting in early with the sofa jokes. That's all.
It's all right, since most people don't know the joke, I don't care.
Oh, they will. Don't worry.
Most people know about the settee joke. After all, you don't deny it, so most people know about it.
I deny nothing.
Exactly. That's why they know about it. Look at books, not legs. Some female students agree with the directive. If your mission of going to the library is to study, why should you start looking at other things like females' legs? Because you're a man and you have a penis and it's a desire to procreate. I'll get there. Third year student, whatever the fuck that is, told the BBC, just concentrate on your books. That's all she said. See, that's one thing I do dislike about when women dress provocatively. It's a case of, people are going to look. So why the fuck would you moan when people are looking? I don't understand that bit.
I think this whole thing's sexist. Not at any point does it mention that the male students are not allowed to be half naked. So for all we know, all of the male students were walking around with their wangs in their hand. So, I mean, come on, that's sexist. That is not reasonable, people. Why is nobody bringing up this?
Because none of us here are gay.
Also, because none of us know or care what the fuck is going on in Zambia.
Okay, that's fair.
I care. That's why I picked the story.
No, it is a
You've
good
got-
story. I mean, I could imagine. See, if you hadn't told me this was in Zambia, I would have just believed it was from anywhere. Like
Hence
everything's
why
gone
I-
that crazy.
Hence why I picked the story. The feminism is getting everywhere, even into the proper patriarchal countries now. It's forever. Ever, ever, ever.
I do hope not.
However, male student, again, Killian Puri or whatever that is, was in favour of the move. You know how attractive women bodies are, he told the BBC. How can you concentrate on studying when someone walks in a miniskirt or a tight dress? You start thinking about other things and won't concentrate. You will be concentrating just on the wrong thing at that time.
What if you're an anatomy student? Maybe that's why you're there. Or an art student.
Surely,
true.
if you were an anatomy student, you would actually be looking at books. You wouldn't be actually looking at females' anatomies that haven't given you permission.
Practice beats theory every time.
You see, this is the reason Africa is a shithole. It's not because these black people have a lower IQ. It's the fucking women again. We have to ban the women.
So,
See,
so does
this-
that mean
this
that
is a funny
a
story
donkey
though,
punch
right?
beats
Because-
consent then? Does that mean a donkey punch beats consent?
I've never had the situation where I've really considered that one. CSG.
What about if you shout surprise as you're doing it?
Mm. Well, because you said it was like a present already, I guess that makes it okay.
Yay, context.
But the funny thing about this story is I don't know really who's more mental here, because we've got the women, right? But we don't know how undressed they are. And then it's like, are the men the problem? Is the university the problem? Is the government the problem? Like, maybe the men don't give a shit. Maybe the men are really bothered by it. Maybe the women are like going around actually naked. Like, who knows? It's the BBC.
True, I wouldn't trust anything they told me.
I reckon
I'm
you send
sorry.
voiceover to conduct a thorough investigation.
Mr. Crumplepoint, are you actually looking at actual journalistic investigation from the BBC?
Fantasizing is probably a better word.
I was going to say, pick your answer carefully. All of us hate the BBC, so
Yeah, I'm fantasizing about journalistic integrity.
memes. I don't like my women beheaded. It's just the women that you like, which is Diane Abbott and Based Mama. That's it. Those are the only girls that I would behead. That wasn't a joke. I just wanted to.
How would you behead Diane Abbott? You can't tell where her chin stops and her neck begins. It's just one
Yeah,
big.
but I just go underneath. I can't really go underneath the chin. I can't see where the chin is.
You didn't think about that.
I didn't think about that. Oh well, Guillotine will cut something off. It'll be fine.
It's all right. Just throw a couple of doggy treats out in front of her when a car's passing, and you're fine.
See, I feel like I should reprimand you, but I really can't be asked.
Oh,
I
no,
do
See, it says here as well, right? A situation which is disturbing the male students. What do they mean by disturbing? Like, is it,
I would have
is it
thought of
like,
something as mass disturbing.
Hang on. Now I know. Yeah, someone has been bugging me since we started here. Tell me, Crumplepoint, did you voice soap in Modern Warfare? Because seriously, your fucking voice. I was trying to. Where have I heard that fucking voice before? And then it came to me, fucking soap.
No, I didn't.
Are you sure? Because you are the fucking spitting, I swear.
Maybe I should do a redub. I'll just add loads more swearing and anti-PC shite into it.
No one would notice. Seriously, you're that good.
I did not
Crumple
realize
soap.
that I did not realize that I was on the stream with Ogre trying to ask kiss our guest. I thought I'll put that back out there.
that's fair.
I take it we're going to have to move on to our new story because there's no point in me trying to get Well, trying to get you lot to talk to cover dead air, is it?
Yeah.
Well,
You're
I
meant to be the
can
fucking host
get right
here.
into this story if you want me to. Like, it's just like when they say it's disturbing the male students, right? I'd be more concerned about them disturbing the furniture because a hot woman walks in, you're walking past and you can't take your eyes off, and then you might get a bit excited, have the desk over, that would be a disturbance. But
Would you push the desk over or have her over the desk?
no, something else would be pushing the desk over.
Okay. See, I would have put her over the desk.
And as we know, Voice would have just done the desk.
He would have done the furniture, yes. He
Yeah, well,
definitely would have done the furniture.
that's like this with furniture. You don't need to worry about consent.
You don't need to worry about consent, but you do
No.
need to wipe.
Yeah, well, that's what the Kleenex is for. And Mr. Sheen.
We need to get a focus group of feminists in here, though, because, are the feminists happy that the men are not being allowed to look at the women, or are they unhappy that the women cannot dress as they wish?
Probably
Because they
both.
seem
The
to want
latter.
both.
Oh, no, I would say it's the latter. If we're going to try and extrapolate it from our idea of what we would consider feminism, it would be the latter. Let's be honest on that one. It's going to be the latter.
In all fairness, I think it'd be hilarious having a bunch of feminists on with Voice. That is dying to happen.
No, that's how you make a Trigglypuff.
Yeah, there.
I would love to debate a feminist. Although I don't think any female feminists would debate me.
I don't think any females would debate you.
Aye.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to be nice. I was being nice about it.
Just mass debates for you, then.
You'll do that. It's fine. We will do that. It's fine. Shall I move on to this next story, or has anybody got anything else to say about the previous?
No, we're just going to take the piss out of the last one, so let's go with this.
I think taking the piss out of it is the story. You can't take this story seriously, and that's why we're covering it, surely.
Patriarchy! Patriarchy! Patriarchy!
Well,
Sorry.
you've won the argument.
No, sorry, I thought I was Lino. Thundercats.
You what?
Oh, for fuck's sake, I'm not explaining it.
No, I know who Lionel is. I know who the Thundercats are. And quite frankly, Cheetah, if anyone as a young person didn't, find her very
She's
attractive.
an animation, do not go further. You're already fucked with the settings.
Hey, she was hot. She only wore a leotard,
I
Yeah.
take you'd rather I don't make any furry comments about now than CSG.
No, you see, that's the thing. You could have harmless crushes on cartoon characters back then, but then the furries came along and fucked everything up.
We did.
Bastards.
We cummed on everything to make it ours.
I swear, after the fucking feminists get the bullet, the furries are next.
That's fine. We've got time to hide. I don't know why I'm adopting the point that I'm a furry when I'm not. I don't even wear anything to be a furry.
So you're a nude furry. That's even weirder.
Well, I made this. Remember, there was the furry versus selfie thing, and I had to make the comment that due to the fact I'm an actual man and not a soy boy, I'm already furry. Men are covered in hair.
So you're a bird then?
No, don't answer that. It's a trick question. It's a trap. Well, it's not a trap, but it's a
I didn't know voice was a trap.
Voice is definitely a trap.
Fucking ugly looking trap.
We never said you were good at it. We just said you were.
There's someone out there for everyone,
So they keep saying.
even in Zambia.
Especially in Zambia. Right, I'm actually going to move on to this fucking story, otherwise we'll be here all day. So George Soros is funding smartphone app to help illegal immigrants avoid law enforcement.
I'm just saying, hang on. I would just say to any Nazis listening, listen, there's a Jew out there that got away. His name is Soros. Just saying.
Well, he was the one.
And can I say to the Jews out there, There's a Nazi that got away. His name is Soros.
Yeah. To be fair, it works both ways.
We're going to get him.
Then.
Between the two of them, we'll have him by Wednesday. We'll get him on the stream.
Maybe not Wednesday. Fuck me, she was pretty. Definitely having too much fucking alcohol. Let's concentrate.
Who are you looking at?
Diane Abbott.
The fucking one on the left. The fucking one in white.
No, you wouldn't want her. She's an A type. You don't want A types.
All I'm
not
seeing
asking
is
to have
an
a conversation with her. I'm not having a conversation with her.
I'm just seeing an advert for something called Heyday. So the goat on the left.
How far you gone down? Just on the one that I'm speaking, you'll be able to see it pop up as I'm speaking. It is the female on the left. So not the one that's being eaten by some fish in the sea, but the one on the left.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's her being eaten. I think that's anal penetration.
It could
'Cause
be.
I saw that face before.
Was it when you were in prison?
No comment.
Right, okay.
Hey, if the no comment thing worked, you wouldn't have ended up in prison, right? So just mount a fucking defense.
Why do you think he's so interested in soap?
Oh dear.
Right, George Soros' funded smart app is meant to explicitly help the undocumented evade federal authority. In an interview with Fox Business, Lou Dobbs, whatever that says, Judicial Watch Director of Research Chris Farrell, called the smartphone application pretty outrageous. In order to escape arrest, Farrell said the app provides notice to their friends and family. It alerts their attorney. The app will also have automated alerts of any impending interaction with an immigration official, whether the person in question, their family, or even their lawyer. According to its website, it gives you and your family a help button to alert key contacts if anyone is at risk of deportation, even though you're here illegally. Prospective users are told to simply create your message today, and you will be ready to push a button for help when you or your family needs it. Alerts are designed to inform family members, legal advocates, and other contacts that the sender may have been detained by the police or immigration and customs enforcement, or as we know it as ICE.
So presumably, is this privileged information then, or is this public information traveling extremely quickly?
I don't know. I would say that this is private information to begin with, because it's always going to be under investigation, which means most investigations are normally done in private first, and then the evidence is then provided to the public.
Yeah, well, cards on the table. Soros is obviously a prick, right? But just to get the thing straight before we really attack it.
Well, I would say he's more.
If somebody comes to the door and knocks and is looking for common sense guy, and you're not in, and I have an app that can just tell you and all the family members that somebody's going to knock on the door, that's technically not anything illegal. It's fucking shite, but it's not illegal.
Actually,
however, if it's privileged information, then surely they can have the app shut down.
I just got one thing to say to that. It is privileged information because you're talking about illegal immigrants. So if you are complicit in helping an illegal immigrant, you are part of the crime.
Because you legally have to turn them in, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're impeding a federal investigation because ICE is a federal agency.
Body. Yeah.
Right, enough. So this surely is an illegal app.
Yes.
Yep.
Which begs the question. Well, no, it doesn't beg the question. People misuse that phrase a lot, don't they? But it forces the question of why hasn't it been shut down? I mean, it should be fairly easy. They can shut down most websites fairly quickly.
Well, you know the reasons why? It's because that the people that are doing this are illegal immigrants, so they're not going to be bothered about the federal law falling upon them because they're already breaking the law while already in the country.
But you know, if it was drugs, the feds would be right on this. They wouldn't even be shutting it down. They'd probably have fake guys on the app to catch people. But Surely
but they
this
have to-
shows that they are allowing this on purpose.
Yeah, but this is an app that comes out of Silicon Valley, and where's Silicon Valley? California. Where the majority of traitors, cunts, who help illegal immigrants come into the country? California. So yeah, it'll never get shut down.
Hence why they want to separate from the United States to begin with, which I think is absolutely funny on that point, because they're trying to separate from the United States, but yet they're trying to provide a sanctuary city or a state in that aspect. So if they provide a sanctuary state to the US and they separate from the US, are they not fucking cutting their own leg off to be able to walk the desert?
Yeah. In all fairness, Trump's got the wrong idea with the wall. Don't bother with building it across the Mexico part. Just sort of wall off California and, leave it.
You see, the thing is, without federal financing, California would literally go broke. I mean, it's like
Scotland.
what was the figure? Well, yes, if Scotland tried to leave the United Kingdom, they'd go broke as well.
I don't know if this is still in date, but I think we have the largest. No, I think Greece overtook us. But we have the largest deficit in Europe.
Yeah, it definitely would be the second largest deficit now. But yes, you do have one of the largest, if not.
It might be lower now because Portugal and Spain and stuff have gone down the shitter, but it's embarrassingly high, basically.
Yep.
Well, I know when I was doing research for a past vid months ago, the cost to the taxpayer of your average person is about £1,400, but in Scotland that's around £4,000. It's the highest of any of the provinces. So,
well, and the irony being that the SNP keep throwing money at their pet projects while defunding other projects. They blame the Tories for it, and there's the market suffers, the welfare system, the jobs, the NHS, they're all suffering. But they'll build a new bridge just to call it the Caledonian Bridge,
aye, we did that over here. They built that fucking bridge in Derry, just so they could say, "Look, we built a bridge that means everybody's going to come together." Yeah.
There was actually the SNP did something that I'm sure you can imagine they would never ever do, but they ignored a popular vote because they had a vote over what to call the bridge, and the popular vote, it goes over the river Forth, so the bridge, everybody voted for it to be called the Fifth, and they discounted that because it was supposedly not a serious entry. But
And what did they end up calling it?
the Caledonian Crossing, because nothing says Scotland like naming it after a Roman name for your country.
Very good point. Yeah.
Well, we love our multiculturalism, don't we?
I still demand reparations from the Romans. Those bastards. They owe us money.
You mean the Italians?
Hey, I don't mind where we're getting from. I demand my reparations. And I want
Yeah,
them-
you get those reparations from the fucking Romans, and we'll get the reparations us from you.
How can you say that? You're one of us. You're British now.
No, I'm British and Irish. Remember, I live in the fuck you state of Northern Ireland.
Pretty much.
I'd love that. You should just call it County Fuck You.
Oh, that is an awesome name. Oh, yes.
Instead of County Durham, it's County Fuck You. I do like that. I got that completely wrong. I've obviously drunk too much on that one.
Just a bit.
Shut the fuck up. Go to Londonderry.
No. And it's not Londonderry anymore, it's just Derry.
Fuck off. It's Londonderry. I'm British.
But so yeah, I'm looking at this article.
No,
and,
you're the only one who is, by the way.
Yeah, even I've stopped. But carry on.
But it's saying obviously, this is the thing. A lot of people like Breitbart, and I'm finding that the problem with Breitbart and sites like it is it's pretty vanilla conservative. So they happen to be on the side of free speech just now, which makes them an uneasy ally of most people. But their base is, vanilla conservative. So they've done things like on Fox, such and such wondered aloud why President Donald Trump's Justice Department has not been more proactive about this potential abuse. And it's like, well, you know why. He'd had a deal with the Democrats saying that they were going to have, a 15-month amnesty for people to turn themselves in?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what I mean is with that prelude, Breitbart, I don't feel any problem criticizing them, even though I do use them for news. And that's one place I would criticize the article, is like, well, we know why. He's already done to get the deal with the wall, which, you can argue that whether that'll ever happen or not. But we know why he's not looking into it now. Because
I think the main thing with the Breitbart piece is not the case of necessarily criticizing Donald Trump. I think it's actually criticizing the fact of George Soros, a public entity, actually providing people, or should we say illegal immigrants, and call a spade, providing illegal immigrants with the actual point of being able to elude the ICE members that are coming to actually collect them and deport them. And it's a case of that's a private citizen that is now doing that. Surely, if you're going against a federal law, isn't that technically a case of going against the state?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the citations, and it says Soros funded. I hate George Soros and would like to see him brought to justice for the various horrible things he's done. And if you want that to happen, then using him as this boogeyman is not constructive. And so I'm looking at the company is Notify, and it was founded by an organization that receives funding from the U.S. taxpayer. So
that's surprising.
So how can it be Soros funded if it's taxpayer funded?
Because George Soros probably bought it.
George Soros does have his fingers in a goddamn lot of pies. I mean, he has something called Democratic Alliance, which is
that's lovely. That's lovely. That is.
It's even better. He funds it, and it funds the DNC.
Yes, it does.
So,
yeah, I'm not trying to oversimplify it and say that the funding can only come from one place. It's just that if people are serious about dealing with Soros, then they have to be more thorough. And these citations aren't leading me to anything that says, here's the money, and that annoys me, because I would like to see his ass, kicked.
Well, any video I do, I always have to do my own fucking research, because unfortunately, it doesn't matter the left or the right. You very rarely actually get a link to the factual information. You always have to spend half an hour looking for it yourself.
It takes you that long?
Well, that's depending on what the source is. I mean, I saw sources where I had to go through a 300-page fucking document. I just don't look at the abstract. I go through the entire fucking thing.
Yeah, it still takes you that length of time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Has everybody heard of a party called Renew Britain? No, not mine. It's an actual proper party that's actually funded.
Is that the one that's funded by the French trying to get us to reattach?
Partly, yes. Partly. But it's also funded by traceable money, 400,000 that's directly from George Soros. And they are directly opposed to Brexit and are directly trying to oppose Brexit.
I'm just saying, tiny Muslims watching, I did see George Soros drawing Muhammad the other day. I also saw the Common Sense guy draw Muhammad as well.
Hey, don't you try and fucking suicide me instead of trying to swat me. I'm going to make sure we actually get a SWAT to you instead. He's got a fucking bomb. Can't you hear the ticking?
Yeah, you're going to have to try better. This is Northern Ireland. Having a bomb isn't exactly out of the realm of possibility.
Very, very true. You can't believe that.
Tell them I have a potato peeler.
Or rather just a potato. Then you got the rest of the Irish to deal with.
No, you see, that didn't work, Common Sense guy.
I thought it worked quite well.
No.
Well, either way, I'm famished.
See, I'm looking at United We Dream, the website, and I'm not able to find any like parent company or anything. What I would usually do if somebody's written an article, for instance, I would look at the journalist, the newspaper, who owns that newspaper, blah blah blah, and you can link up the dots with where the money's obviously come from and what their intentions are. But I'm not actually seeing a direct link. This could be anything that the DNC has dreamt up. I mean, I don't like the thing, but I'm just thinking I can't see anything that says, here he is, you know. Whereas even with this stuff that was going on in Ukraine and the other stuff you mentioned before, it was obvious you could see where his money had come from. But with this, it seems very muddy, to say the least.
No, I completely agree with you. But if you're an owner of a particular thing, most decisions, I'm not saying all, but most decisions are going to come with you. And if you're going to directly go against a federal jurisdiction, so to speak, or stipulation, then surely they would ask the owner, "Are you sure you want us to do this?" I know that there's no link directly to the money, but surely that we can take an extrapolation and maybe cause a form of correlation.
Yeah, I think obviously in principle, I think that this is an absolutely despicable thing to be doing. But what I mean is, when you try and convince somebody that Soros is up to something, like a normie, if you will, they always ask for evidence, and that's fair enough. Sometimes you might be in an argument with somebody who just adamantly refuses to believe George Soros even exists. And
to be fair, I completely understand your point. And if we were going to talk to a normie about this particular story, they would first go, "It's Breitbart. It's full of shit." So we can't really go much further than that.
Yeah, that is fair enough. But the other thing is, you'll get people, particularly if it's online, listening in but not arguing with you. And what has happened to me a few times is I've been arguing with somebody, and then other people have gone and checked what I've been saying, and I've won them over, even though I didn't win over the person I was arguing with. And if I'm wanting to be doing that, then I want to have a smoking gun, if you will. But if I'm just getting this that says Soros runs the company and I can't find the evidence, I would need to go and Google for a while to, I'm just following the links in article. I'm not going to.
I understand. It's kind of.
I'll get distracted, but this then seems just like confirmation bias for Breitbart readers, and that's no use to them or us.
No, I completely understand, but it's the case that the actual app is definitely coming out, and even if it's not George Soros funded, and we can even dock George Soros completely out the story, the actual app in itself is still a private company, generally, because it's been taken over. Even if you don't have George Soros in it, it's a private company that is designed and is creating an app specifically to help illegal immigrants, or undocumented, as the Americans like to call it, and is trying to help them be able to move and not get caught or deported. That in itself is more than enough to be able to actually say, maybe there's something a bit wrong here.
Yeah, I'm completely happy to drop the Soros thing and just focus on that. And in that instance, why is the government not going batshit about where their money's going? If it's going to a company that's private, that's allowing people to break the law. This is unbelievable.
I suppose it depends on who's funding them. I suppose it also depends on if it's not in operation yet, is it? It's not being used directly as such. It's only in planning stages, or it's not actually implemented yet, as far as I'm aware. Though, if somebody wants to tell me different, then please do. So technically, you can't really arrest anybody or go mad over it if it doesn't technically exist. Kind of like
that's an interesting little loophole.
But it's a loophole that they will use, and we all know that.
Yeah.
Probably makes it easier to shut down if the authorities do get their finger out their arse. If it's just a sort of beta test, it probably makes it much easier to shut the thing down.
Yeah, I think it's more of a case of I think that they were putting the feelers out and trying to see if that was something that the DNC, as you correctly said, some of the people in higher up on the Democrats, and probably people in general, to see if they would like the idea of having that out and actually pushing that little bit of narrative. And I think a couple of people have got hold of the story and have pushed it before it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think it's a systemic thing as well, because if you look at the Republican side of things, they're soft on immigration as well. They're, until it's election time, and then they come out with their own build the wall plans and their own rhetoric. But as soon as they're in office for the next 3 years, look at John McCain. For the next 3 years, it's absolute silence or just downright agreement with the DNC on the whole immigration issue. They frame it in a more businessy tone. They say, "Oh, we couldn't function economically without these migrants," rather than the DNC, which is all love and cuddles. And so both parties are, much like our own country, are horrendously soft on this. And this app is an absolute joke, and it makes a mockery of their justice system and their government, because they should know exactly where every tax dollar is going.
There's a link for your crumple point in the side chat. It'll take you a while to go through each one individually, but it should give you a few interesting reads.
Does anybody have anything else to actually say on this topic?
Kill the George Soros.
One tiny minor point, and this may offend voice slightly, but has anyone noticed how much George Soros looks like the Emperor from Star Wars?
Oh, hang on. That's getting personal, mate.
Now, for that, I will apologise, but he really does look like the Emperor from Return of the Jedi. It's disturbing.
That is because, Jensen, as Granny Crumplepoint always says, you wear your personality on your pus.
That's fair, actually. Yeah.
That's why you get people like Ian McKellen, for instance. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you say on your purse?
Your pus, your mouth, your face.
I just wondered. I thought he meant a purse. That you keep money in. I was wondering what the fuck. But
no, your face.
Your Scottish slang for face is purse.
Pus. P-U-S.
Puss, as in pussycat. Puss.
Puss, right. Didn't know that now.
For the sake of international relations, I'm putting it in the chat.
Fuck the international relationship. Kill them all.
Now.
So anyway, yeah, you wear your personality on your pus, and that's why you get old guys like David Attenborough and Ian McKellen who look very nice and approachable, and then on the other side you've got Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, George Soros, who look like Emperor Palpatine.
See, I was going to say reptiles.
Oh, that's when they take their skin off.
I suppose we better move on to the harder stuff, and I don't really want to, but we're going to have to move on to the harder stuff.
You've done a good job of easing us in gently, though.
It's not because I don't really want to do it, but it has to be talked about. That's the only problem. I don't want to do it. I was going to actually do a video on it instead, but I thought, live stream will do. It's bank holiday. That'll be easy enough. We'll have other people talking. It'll be fine. But, yeah. Yeah, go on.
Then you got us, and that's half the problem. At least if you was doing it as a private video, you wouldn't have a bunch of idiots in the background making stupid comments.
Have you not seen my videos? There's always a stupid idiot in it.
Yeah.
See, you're not meant to insult yourself. That's our job.
Yeah, but I just take it away from you so you all have nothing to say and look stupider than me.
Well, I don't know about that. The only reason...
did you see your video today?
Hey, I tell you what, let's race down the street. Exactly.
So, sex between a 33-year-old and a settee. Sorry.
I wish I was 33.
I was trying to be nice, but fine, fair enough. 40 odd. So, sex between a 23-year-old migrant. Why didn't they just say whatever?
Muslim.
And a 10-year-old girl is not rape, says court in Finland this time. So we're not in Sweden this time. We've moved across to Finland. So Finland's Supreme Court upheld the ruling, rejecting a request from the prosecution to appeal a 3-year jail term for a 23-year-old that's better asylum seeker who had sex
Muslim.
with a 10-year-old, saying it didn't constitute rape. I'm just trying to let that sink in with everybody for a fucking while.
The man's name, Yusuf Mohammed Abdullah. Anybody think he's a Taoist?
He's obviously a Christian. Come on.
Oh,
Can I just point out that even this article that's kind of on our side is being a bit... They're using the language that we're trying to fight against, because the man is not an asylum seeker. He is an illegal immigrant, because he's a migrant, because he's not in the nearest safe country, so he stopped being an asylum seeker. And he is a migrant, but he is obviously not there. I think it said, does it not say he's illegally there? Undocumented? Anyway, so he's a migrant, and the article can still say it was rape. It doesn't need to be legally raped for them to say that it was rape. You know, if it's an opinion piece, for instance, they should have just hid behind that. And then aggravated rape? Aggravated rape? What is that?
Has that said that on here, aggravated rape, or...
Aggravated
Prosecution had sought the harsher sentence of
abuse.
aggravated rape.
Sexual abuse on this one. We did a live stream, didn't we, on... was it Wednesday? We would have done a live stream on this on Wednesday, where basically there's 3 countries that constitute this type of stuff as rape, and where every other country constitutes this as a sexual abuse case. And this is the reasons why I was trying to treat that one a bit seriously, same as this bit now, because that's a 23-year-old man. In their eyes, and I say their eyes because I'm trying to be generous and nice and serious for a change, but in their eyes, saying that he had sex with a 10-year-old. Now, even in their fucked up way of even saying sexual abuse, how could you even use that terminology? How could you even have that terminology whatsoever with a 23-year-old and a fucking 10-year-old?
Because they're progressive.
I just can't understand that.
I'm kind of worried about the age of sexual consent in Finland, because I seem to remember a stream we did where you was pointing out little things like the age of consent and the age of adulthood, and how any sort of sex before that, whether or not the victim stroke child agrees, it doesn't actually apply because it's still a child and therefore cannot enter into any form of contract. Do you remember that one, TSG?
I do remember it. In France, it is 13, but they're trying to lower it to 11. In Spain, the age of consent, I believe, is around 13 to 14.
It's 16 in Finland.
Yeah, I just Googled that as well. 16 in Finland, so even by their own laws, it would have been statutory rape. Even by their own laws, it would have been statutory rape. So,
yeah, and that's the thing, is like, it's they can't consent. It's legally impossible for them to consent because of their age. That's why they have the age of consent. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an issue. And it's trying to say there is a difference between sexual abuse and rape, and the difference is usually sexual intercourse. And the article says here he had sexual intercourse, so it is therefore rape. Yeah. Also, aggravated. When you talk about an assault, the aggravation is obviously a mitigating circumstance, which means common assault is when you run up and punch somebody in the head. Aggravated assault is when the person threw a bottle at you and you punched them in the head. Like there was a circumstance in which it became not acceptable but less punishable. And this is implying that not the article, but this law is implying that there is a circumstance in which it becomes more okay to rape a small child. That's Finland's official position.
See, I hate that bit at the end. Just on the second to last paragraph, it says saying the obviously, as we just said, aggravated sexual abuse, and a 3-year sentence in 2017. Now, this is the bit that fucking gets me. The sentence in itself is fucking piss poor, but we'll leave that for a second. But saying the girl wasn't forced into the act or overcome by fear. She was 10. How the fuck did she know what she was doing? There's no way that she would even have started to go through puberty at that fucking point. And even if she did, she still wouldn't have had a fucking clue what was going fucking on. So it wouldn't have been a sexually charged fucking form of sexual tension or fucking anything else like that. It's a case of this was pure and simple fucking rape from a fucking 23-year-old.
Completely agree with you.
I just want to say, and I'm not joking here, there are times when I can be serious, and I'm being very serious when I say this, but to any paedophiles watching, kill yourselves. Make the world a better place. Just fucking throw yourselves off a building, in front of a car, in front of a train. Just fucking get off this earth, you scumbag fucks.
Well, see if this makes you feel any better, voice of one. The asylum seeker, so the person that did this, was ordered to pay the girl 3,000 euros as compensation for raping her.
Fuck off.
Yep, 3,000 euros. As I'm talking, you'll be able to see it. Last paragraph as I'm talking. The asylum seeker was ordered to pay the girl 3,000 euros. It has sparked fierce debates across the country. Well, something fucking had to. So raping a fucking 10-year-old actually got the country to stand up.
I
Fucking well done,
guarantee you,
feminists.
I guarantee you that if this guy was white,
He would have been
would've
shot. He wouldn't even have gone to court. He would have been shot. He would have been.
Well, notice as well that there's no article, there's no picture of the man in the article either. So they've protected him there. They've released his name, but there's no picture of him.
That's
I'm not
because he's
doing
a
anything.
fucking
I'm
Muslim.
not doing anything. Honest. I'm not doing nothing. Nobody looks to see what I'm doing.
To be honest,
Oh,
they
that looks interesting. Who could that be?
They may as well just change the rules and simply put, if you're Islamic, you can rape anything you want and you will not be charged. Just make it a worldwide rule.
There you go. There's his picture. If anybody wants to see his picture, that's what he looks like.
Well,
Well, at least somebody's doing their job of the news industry. Common sense guy.
Yeah, I just fucked it up. There you go. You can even see the picture and see that at the top it says the 10. So I'm assuming, because I can't speak Finnish, I'm assuming that's to do with the actual arrest of the 10-year-old. So it even says that at the top of the title. So yeah, that's what that cunt looks like. I mean, person. I meant person. Honest. I really meant person.
So the Memes of Destruction is saying that there are non-practicing paedophiles, which is obviously true. However, I would say that they are ticking time bombs and they have to seek psychiatric help. They have to.
I love
as soon
memes,
as you know,
but...
you go to a psychiatrist.
Yeah, I love memes, but I'm not going to entertain that even as an argument.
No.
I'm sorry, memes. I love
Well,
you.
the thing is that the sexual impulse is the most powerful, aside from pain avoidance, the most powerful impulse of humanity. So if that's your inclination, then there's nothing you can do to stop it, particularly with the link between paedophilia and sexual abuse,
Yeah.
as in they will have suffered it probably themselves, which means they're also mentally damaged, as well as being paedophiles, as well as having a sexual urge, which means they are a ticking time bomb, in my opinion. And they need, as soon as they know, they need to go and seek a psychiatrist.
Yeah, but this isn't even about paedophilia. I know it's because the people go, oh, she's 10, she's 12, she's whatever. This is not about paedophilia. This is about points of control. You cannot say that you would find that type of thing enjoyable. I know people go, oh, yeah, but that's paedophilia. It's like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but it's a case of, this is not paedophilia, this is to do with power, because it's embedded into certain aspects of their culture.
I don't know if you saw Common Sense Guy, but I sent you a link with Jack Straw on the Daily Politics. Now, I have no love for him, but he was quite adamant and quite clear in his language on the Daily Politics. And all three people were in agreement on the panel that this is a specific problem to Pakistani culture, and something needs to be done about it. And supposedly that's, you can take his word or not. I mean, he's not exactly the most. He supported the Iraq War, so take it with a grain of salt. But he says that that's been his focus, and that's why he's been out of sort of national politics. Is he's been trying to help crack down on these, not just the paedophile gangs, but any aid they might be getting. And he said that they noticed the link immediately between the drug trade and these paedophile gangs, so they cracked down on both at the same time and smashed these paedophile rings.
Yeah,
and
to correlate your fucking story, I did a story again from Breitbart, but I did a story that was to do with sexual exploitation of youngish girls between the age of 11 and 17. And all of them were to do with, they all got taken by drug dealers and then got addicted to what was going on. When they arrested all of them, the actual people that were making the cell, they actually formed such a big cell. There was a case of they actually were paying, people were paying them from African countries and Middle Eastern countries to come over for a couple of days, take a pick of the girls that they had and stay there and then fuck off again. That this was so embedded that they actually had sections of it, and this is all to do in Spain. And you can extrapolate that and even put that into a point of, well, what about Telford? What about Rotherham? What about them type of places? If it happens there, why wouldn't it happen where we are?
Yeah, we're very accessible.
Well, even more accessible to a point. We're fucking surrounded by water for a start.
Yeah, the other thing is, I think it's called leashing, because what you do is you get them hooked on the drugs, and therefore they can't leave.
Yeah.
Because they'll need the drugs, and this is heroin, this is hard stuff. So if you don't take it, you may die, and these are children. They're not going to have the willpower, or these are Jack Straw, and I can't remember the name of I think he was Pakistani, the guy, and he's a prosecutor, I think he was, and he was saying, these are soft targets for these guys. They always pick young working class girls and boys from shit families who nobody cares about, who are out on the streets anyway.
Yeah.
And they get away with it because nobody cares. Because nobody cared to begin with, so why would they care afterward? And the girls don't know any better. They don't know any, they've come from abuse anyway.
Yeah. I will say the only good thing, I'm trying to use this as loose as possible. No pun intended, as sick as that sounds. But the only good thing that comes out of Telford is the fact that we were able to work out that the cabbies in the night industry in the Asian part were sitting outside of schools to collect children that weren't theirs, that weren't being paid for. Surely people can now realise that they need to start speaking up about that type of stuff. To work out that girls that are with 23 and 24-year-old men that don't even look anything like their brothers or siblings should say something. When a cabbie is waiting outside and the girl's kind of going, no, I don't want to go. Surely a teacher should go, why don't you come with me and we'll call your mum and dad, or your dad or your mum, or whatever their single family is nowadays. Surely we can work that sort of stuff out.
No, because the teachers are fucking progressives. She's only going with a nice Muslim man. Nothing bad will happen. No, it's a fucking joke. Quite frankly, to any parents living in these areas, beat the living fuck out of the first cunt comes near your children.
Yeah.
Beat them to fucking death if you have to. Fuck these scumbags. I'm sorry if I don't want your channel to get slated or anything, but to any rapist or paedophile, just fucking beat them to death.
There's
also respected by the rest of the panel on the Common Sense Guys channel.
The worst part is that the system is the same across the country. Like every I don't know what you want to call it, cell operates the same way. So
yes.
There's really not much legwork to be done. All you do is you look for a sports car outside a school. There's your man. And what they do is they ride up in the sports car. They come fairly regularly. Nothing untoward. Just conversation to begin with. And I've spoken to charity workers now. What you'll notice is children's charities in big inner cities like that have a very, very, very high turnover of employees, because they get in, they hear all these phone calls, or they have to, work with social services or whoever it may be. They find out about these children. They find out exactly what's going wrong, and they are told that they cannot act on it. And then when they leave, they've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't even, they can't even become a source safely. They would be breaking the law. So all these inner city charities like Bernardo's, NSPCC, Childline, they know about it, and the workers have been gagged into not speaking to anyone about it. Social services know about it. They have not been gagged. They obviously have orders not to do anything about it. And it's they get the guy in the sports car. He, for want of a better word, seduces. The young girl is under the impression that it's a boyfriend. That's the way the relationship seems to them. And then the leashing with the drugs happens shortly after that.
Yep. And then they get passed around like cigarettes.
And it's the same system in every single city.
Yep, it basically happened exactly like that in Telford. Especially with, as I said, the only good things about Telford is we worked out or was reported in the news, should we say, finally, how their cells were actually operating. And it did come out exactly the way that Crumple Point has actually just said. The only points that I would add to that is because that they get to the point of thinking that they're boyfriend and girlfriend, for some reason, the police don't actually do anything to that, because apparently it's okay for a 27-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 23-year-old to be with a 13 or 14-year-old if they think that they're 16. Apparently that's okay nowadays.
Well, you're
this isn't
under the direction that the cops do their fucking jobs these days.
No, I agree with you. To the point where I was literally just about to jump on and continue a point that Crumple Point was saying. With the Daily Mail, when they released the story for Telford to begin with, they actually got in contact with the social services like Bernardo's and a couple of other groups that are very, very similar, Samaritans and things like that. And they said that this was the first time from the Daily Mail that they have ever been requested to do an interview, meaning that the police have never requested to do an interview, because they even said they haven't seen the police. And if you want to go to that, you can go to one of the videos in my Telford series, and you can have a look at that, because it's the first story that I pull up.
Well, that's where the non-disclosure comes in, because if the police went in, that would override the non-disclosure agreement.
No,
so the reason these charity workers aren't speaking out is because of the non-disclosure agreement.
Crumple Point, they actually say that in the story. The police haven't even come to see us.
Yeah, exactly. But there's your proof. If you think that that's just them trying to pass the buck, well, there's actually evidence, because why aren't at least one charity worker speaking out? The non-disclosure. And therefore, the proof that it's the non-disclosure that's doing this is that if a single police officer was able to go and interview a Bernardo's or an NSPCC worker, that would override the non-disclosure, and they'd be able to spill their guts to the police officer.
No, you see, Crumple Point, they don't need to say anything. All I have to say is, listen, here's these names, have a talk with them. That's not invalidating the non-disclosure agreement. And then the police would go around and interview these girls, what's going on, etc., etc. But no, that would require them to do actual fucking work, and it's much better to stand around scratching their fucking balls than actually go after criminals.
And the other thing is that this is just going to breed resentment, because people are going to only see this in terms of race. If they're getting off because of their race, people are going to start tarring everybody with the same brush because of race, because it works both ways. And I don't want to see that happen. I'm quite a liberally minded person when it comes to that sort of stuff, and I don't want to see that happen, but it's going to happen. I can't help it myself sometimes, and because the police are giving them preferential treatment, and you can't help, you unconsciously just make that connection in your head.
Well, I think that's the whole point, isn't it? That you can't make the connections in the head. That's the reason why the media doesn't report it. For instance, the BBC took, fucking 3 days after forcibly being forced to report on it. It's fucking amazing on that point. Then when they do report on it, they don't give you the full details that it's around about 86% in general for every gang that's ever happened. That is 86% Pakistani men. And then they go, oh yeah, it's Asian rape gangs. It's like, no, be more specific. It's a cultural thing. We're not saying all of them do it, because the fucking hashtag has to go up. It's not all. But if it's generally a very high percentage of a particular demographic, then we need to fucking talk about it, don't we? But yeah, we can't talk about it because the media won't post it. We're not allowed to talk about it because we get called racists. Then we have to have a freedom march, and then we get called racist for fucking having a freedom march.
Yeah, I tell you, to everyone listening to this, I want you to do me a favor. I know it might take you some, like half an hour or so on, and you mightn't really want to do it. But I want you to go around all the prominent feminists, SJWs, YouTube channels tonight, and just see if any of them have covered this story or covered anything about rape gangs, Muslim rape gangs and stuff. And you'll notice that not fucking one of them have. They don't want to touch us with a fucking barge pole because they're all lying hypocrites.
It doesn't need to be racial as well. And this is another thing, though, is I genuinely think that it might be as much to do with a societal problem as a racial one. Because I know this is only an anecdotal, but I remember many moons ago when I was in high school, me and a bunch of the lads, we would have been 18 because we were in our final year of school. And we noticed that a lot of the sort of 14, 15-year-old girls were going about with guys that we knew had left school. So they were older than 18, they were older than us. And they were like, 21, 22, 23. And they would come up in their shitey sports cars. And they would come up to the school, not Pakistani guys, white guys. And it's exactly the same system of, they come up, check the car out, do you want to come up for a ride in the car? And it got to the stage where we noticed that they weren't just going for the girls that were our age. That pissed us off anyway, because obviously we're a bunch of fucking horny 18-year-olds. We didn't want any competition, but we noticed they were going for the younger girls with like 14, and these guys were 23. Yeah. And it was a case of they were older than us, so we were kind of disgusted, but we also knew that because we'd hit 18, we were probably physically, would approached manhood kind of thing. So a bunch of us or every time we saw one of these sports cars, we would just stand around it and, knock on the window and basically tell them to get the fuck. And nobody cared. We told teachers, we told community wardens, I think they're called. We told charity people that would come to the school that this was happening. Nobody gave a shit.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not just
I can to evidence
a racial thing.
Well, again, I don't think it is just to disagree with you. You're there a bit crumple point. I completely agree with what you said about the guys showing up. But this isn't a race thing. It's a religion thing. I mean, you look at the predominantly... Now, every country has its own rapists. That's just a fact. But it is predominantly being done these days by people from Muslim backgrounds, from a bunch of different countries, where women are seen as less than, and non-Muslim women are seen as absolutely nothing.
I agree with that because I've heard it said, but I was kind of more adding to the point than contradicting it. Of even when there is no, oh goodness me, will I be charged with some kind of racial offence? Even when there's no risk of that, nothing is done. So it's a case of nobody values these children.
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to add to the point as well. I'm being probably a little bit younger than some of the people here. I can give the anecdotal evidence that Crumple Point has just done by knowing that what we would call boy racers, the people in the sports cars, would come up, the ones that have been left school for 2 to 3 years, would come up and would try and get the hotter girls in the top classes to go out with them. And then when they weren't interested or just weren't interested to begin with, they'd go down lower. And it's a case of you do look at that and you think, well, surely that's a form of a cultural thing. And that's where I would go with it more than a religious thing. I would say it's to do with an upbringing. Because if you say it's to do with a religion thing, then that means that all Muslims would be doing that. And there's too many to say that they would all be doing it. So it's more of a cultural thing more than anything else.
Well, it must be, like over here, we left high school at 16. So there was no one coming around with cars to our high school. And quite frankly, if they did, they soon got fucking shifted. But
that's the point that we're both making. It's the point that the time's shifted where nobody was interested in looking after the children. Once school come out and you all left the grounds, as soon as you got onto that pavement where you were outside of the school fence, the teachers didn't give a shit.
Well,
I've
common
seen
sense, guy. The
teachers-
exact scenario I'm thinking of was actually taking place during the lunch hours as well. That was the worst part of it. We were going and getting teachers and saying, "Look, Mr. Big Burly PE teacher who's on the rugby team and is fucking massive. You want to go out and see to them?" And they'd always say, "Oh yeah." One of them actually did, to his credit. One of them actually did go and stand outside the school a couple times. But you know, that's what it took. And it was always. What really pissed me off. It was always 14-year-old or younger, always from the poorer backgrounds, and it was always they'd get them hooked in with the weed, booze, and the ride in the sports car because it made them feel grown up. And the kids, the 14-year-old girls from the better backgrounds, knew better. You know, they'd been warned about stuff like that, or they had enough, you know, value put on them that they didn't feel the need to go with these scumbags. And that's the saddest part about it for me.
Yeah, no, I'm completely and utterly with you. I mean, our one didn't really happen too much at lunchtime. Ours was normally at the end of school. They didn't even bother using weed or alcohol with most of the ones that I saw. They just fucking bought them with cigarettes. They just got them hooked on general cigarettes. Oh, you can try this instead, and just a general cigarette.
So basically, we all have to go back to living in the 1970s then.
I don't think we have to go back. I just think that we have to bring some of that ideology and culture back through. The fact that we do need to protect our children. The fact that not everybody's fucking safe, clean, and fucking happy to leave your kids with. I mean, there was a fucking post a couple of weeks ago about free fucking range parenting in fucking Utah or Ohio, where they're now allowed to fucking actually let their kids go off all to the park for about 8 to 10 blocks away for fucking 6 to 10-year-olds to walk that distance back again, to be able to call that legal now, because they got their kids taken off them, the person in this story, because it was to them neglect. But then they got a law fucking passed where it's a case of they're now allowed to do that. It's a case that we don't really care about our kids anymore because we've got lazy fucking parents that don't really want to look after their children, but then cry when something fucking happens to them. It's everybody else's fault, but not theirs.
Well, yeah, I would definitely agree with that 100%.
And then the police enforced that as well, because if you look at stuff that Tommy Robinson has said about those two dads who tried to get their daughters out of the, for want of a better term, brothel, and the police arrested the dads.
Yep. They didn't even go into the fucking brothel to try and see if there was any fucking kids in there. But the whole reason why their parents were there, the dads were there, they were telling them there was young children in there, and they didn't even go in to fucking investigate. They just arrested the parents, as you quite rightly said, and took them away.
So that discourages any kind of, citizens' arrests or any social backlash, because people get scared. Because obviously, if say a parent doesn't give a shit about his daughter, but maybe another parent with a kid also knows this is happening, he can't go and do something about it because then he might go to jail and then his kid's not looked after, so he can't look after the neighbour's kid. You know what I mean? Like, society can't look after each other because we all have our own crosses to bear, obviously, and you have to put your own families first.
But that's the thing, though. We can still, as you quite rightly said, we can still transfer that to when we see fucking in the middle of the high street, fucking girls that look at 14 and 15 with fucking mini skirts and fucking shortcut tops and boob tubes and whatever. You know, fucking girls that look fucking slutty as fuck that are on the corner that are 14 to 15 that are trying to get people to go upstairs or get into their car. Surely we can call the police on that and get them to do something. But apparently, most people don't even want to do that. And if they do, as we've already said, culturally, because they don't want to, they know where it leads to when they do an investigation. They will lead to them type of gangs. They don't want to do it because then they get called racist in the eyes of the law. And they're more scared about being called fucking racist nowadays, as we've learned before, than actually doing their fucking jobs. And that's the police.
And that's the other thing, is the gang connection, because take the example I just told you about. One of the times we just got rid of the guys because I took 2 or 3 of my mates. We went up to the car and I tapped on the window because it was surrounded by these young girls. So obviously it was easy enough to push past them. Tapped on the window, he puts the window down. I was shitting myself because the guy was way bigger than me, but I had a couple of mates, and I just said, "They're a bit old for you, or they know. You don't want something a bit younger, maybe 4 or 3." And the guy, his face went bright red, and he's like, "Oh, fucking have you after school," and he drove off. And obviously, nothing happened. But if you imagine that had been one of these gangs who are organised and have weapons and know lots of people, I'd have been fucked.
Nowadays,
They
yeah,
would have
you
come
got
for me
fucking
after school.
chopped up by a machete, mate. Nowadays.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why the police need to fucking start doing something. I mean, to be fair, that's a fucking excellent segue on to our next couple of stories. But for this moment in time, I'm not going to segue because it's still an interesting topic. It's the case that you say that, and it's a case of that's the reason why a civil outcry can't do anything to these people, simply because the police need to fucking do something. If you believe in anything to do with the state, that the state's going to protect you, then this is the reasons why we have police to do this for us. But apparently they're too scared themselves of just being called fucking racist. I'm not saying they're going to be shit scared in the line of duty, because most of them aren't. And most of them are decent people. It's just a case that their up and ups tell them not to do stuff because they're either involved, complicit, or they just don't want to fucking have anything happen because they're scared of being called racist.
Well, we spoke about during the Dankula thing, we spoke about policing generally. And one of the problems is it's like a red herring scenario, because a lot of these, these pencil pushers, these desk cops who give the orders, they know that the guys under them are decent and will not stand for this shit. So what they do is they will prioritize. They'll have targets, as you said. You spoke about this yourself, of the targets, and they'll say, right, this week we're focused on domestic abuse. So that then gives the police this horrible situation of they're being sent to something that is a worthy cause, stopping domestic abuse. But that's a thing that, like, after a while, I've spoken to a lot of cops. They realise it's the same faces over and over again, and it's just what they do. They think they've saved this woman or man from a horrible abusive situation. Job well done. Next week, it's the same 2 people that moved back in together, beating the shit out of each other, and so then they change the target again. They say it's going to be drugs this week. You know what I mean? So they distract them with these other worthy causes to stop them, being police. Because if they didn't have these targets, I think the police would actually go, well, you know what? Let's go around to the kebab shop and see if they've got any drugs in the back every week.
Well, let's actually address what I think the actual fucking problem is. And this is not to do with any sort of political party in general, because both parties are fucking as complicit, if not as bad as each other. And in my answer to what's going on, if people are actually complicit in what's going on, and people are, like, for instance, use Telford as an example, because I know most about the Telford incident than I know anything else about any other. That's been going on for nigh on 40 something years, 38 years, nigh on 40 years. And somebody had to know, whether it be the councillors, the MPs, or in fact the government itself. I'm more inclined to think that it's at least goes up to low-level government, so low-level MPs that are in that area. And I honestly do think that they are actually complicit and probably are partaking, as they used to with the Tories and as they used to with the Labour, when they used to go to the old homes to get the boys and the girls out, the hostels and everything else like that, boarding schools and shit. I think that they've now switched from them because of the stories that have come out, and they're using their gangs to be able to get what they want and keeping them quiet and not going against them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Theory. Well,
Mr. Quinn, you're awful quiet.
Voice, you haven't said fuck all, especially you, Mr. Quinn. You haven't said fuck all for about half an hour.
I've been listening to the disgusting state of this planet, and people wonder why it is I'm as dark and nihilistic as I am. This is the reason. We have a society that all but allows abuse of children. I'm not going to point fingers and target anybody, but I do want to make a minor segue here. I was in post office a couple of weeks ago. Little kid wandered past, and I happened to notice the T-shirt she was wearing. It looked like she was wearing a Rolling Stones. You know, the mouth and the tongue and all that lot, yeah?
You mean the kiss one, the one with the tongue with the mouth?
No, that's the Rolling Stones.
No, it's Rolling Stones. I'm sure of it.
Okay,
But-
I thought it was Kiss. He always used to put his tongue all the way out, didn't he?
No, that is true. But as I say, I happened to glance over that. I ought to point out the kid was about 4, 5, maybe 6 at the absolute most. Then I happened to notice the writing on it. And this is the part that made me a bit concerned. Again, I point out the age of the child. Let me satisfy you.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. I mean, any parent looking at that type of a T-shirt and thinking that would be good for anybody, even up to the age of fucking 14, 15, 16, I would not let my daughter at that point wear that type of T-shirt.
Precisely. As much as I say, I don't want to point fingers. You kind of have to wonder about the parenting skills connected in that situation. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too conservative or something. I don't know.
No, I'm completely with you on that idea. But it's a case of you could say that the parents might not necessarily know, not due to the fact that they don't care, but due to the fact that the girls are thinking that they're protecting them while hiding what they're going to wear. So they could wear long trousers and a dress or a shirt or whatever, and then go to the place that they're meeting their boyfriend in inverted air commas and cunts as the actual name. And then going into that place and getting changed, and then coming out on the street, to work for their boyfriend, come again, and that's the point. It's a case of how would you yourself know what was going on, not unless you were able to check the bag and everything what was going on.
You're right, but I'm just making the point. The kid was like 6 and walking around with a T-shirt saying, "Let me satisfy you."
See, I think that's bad in itself. I think that's bad in itself, but I think that you hit the nail on the head on that aspect for this situation. What fucking parent would let a 6-year-old walk around anywhere by themselves?
Yeah. Agreed.
No, can we change topics now, because this is winding me up no fucking end. I just want to do violence to somebody at the moment.
That's fine, my friend. Not a problem. I completely understand. So we're going to go from one aspect of children to, children. Hang on a minute. My fucking internet's fucked up.
That's not a good thing.
It's okay. It's back.
Okay, good.
It's back. So we've gone one aspect of children to another aspect of children with shootings in London. We knew it was coming because this is what the title of the fucking live stream is. I'm glad that we've sort of eased ourselves in and we only really have half an hour to really cover these two stories. But let me just quickly read through this and then we'll continue. 2 boys treated for head injuries after shootings in Harrow, North West London. A Harrow MP has vowed, because he's going to fucking do anything, to catch these responsible after 2 teenagers are found with gunshot wounds in a place that doesn't allow guns and probably has the highest levels of gun control and scrutiny in the fucking world, within 2 minutes of each other. So 2 boys aged 13 and 15 suffered head injuries after being shot within 2 minutes of each other. Officers were alerted to the incidents in High Street, Wheedlestone, Harrow, at 1:17 p.m. on Sunday and found a 15-year-old boy with a gunshot wound. 2 minutes later, nearby in the same street, 13-year-old boy was also treated for gunshot wounds. He had suffered a shotgun pellet wound to the head. The MP for Harrow West has pledged, apparently, to work with police to find these responsible.
Hang on. I just want to clear something up here. Now, was this a pellet gun that was being shot, or was it a shotgun shooting buckshot? Because, that's the only way you can get pellets inside a shotgun is if you're shooting buckshot. So was it a pellet gun or a shotgun?
I think it was
All I-
shotgun with
all I can
buckshot
say
in
is
it.
that it says shotgun pellet wound. So that's all I can say on that one.
They'll make it a 36 bore, I believe.
They're the only ones that are legal, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. It'll be a legal gun that's been illegally acquired.
Shocked and horrified by reports of 2 children shot in my constituency. So it only matters when it happens in your constituency. I hate fucking. See, this is where I do agree with some of the communistic views. This is the reason why I hate really rich and influential people. Oh, it doesn't matter if it's in the next door neighbor's garden. It only matters when it's in my garden. It's like we do need more forms of community.
I would.
If it happens next door, it's going to happen to us eventually.
Well, I would say this. I guarantee you, when he read this, he wasn't thinking, "Oh my God, those poor kids." He was thinking, "Look what I can jump on to get some fucking name in the press and stuff." He was looking at this and how it's going to help his career.
Oh yeah,
He
he
was
definitely
sitting
was looking for
smiling.
publicity. He was definitely looking for publicity and fucking virtue signal points and oppression points.
Yeah, I agree, because frankly, these gun control people are, as somebody who used to believe in gun control and then didn't believe in gun control and is now somewhat changeable on the issue. I think it depends on where you live and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
As somebody with that view, I can say categorically that if he was really that angry about it, he would be prepared to say, you know what, I'm actually willing to talk with, Americans and Germans and all these different people and see all options. If that means advocating for the legalization of all firearms in Parliament, that's what I'll go and do. If it means we have to crack down further on the gun control we already have, that's what I'll do. But they don't ever say that. They just say they're horrified and we need to do more stringent background checks. They never think, you know what, let's just start again. Let's get whatever works, even if I emotionally completely disagree with it. Whatever works, let's get it done. They will never do that.
Again, I'm sorry to burst your bubble here, Crumple Point, but you have met a politician in your life.
I've met several, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think you have completely unrealistic expectations for these cunts.
Oh, this is just a case of like logically, if they weren't complete cunts, this is what they would do. So the fact that they're not doing it means they must be complete cunts.
yeah. It's a case of if they actually were to follow out on any of their points that they made, like my thoughts are with them and their families. If you were really worried sick about the way that they were feeling, you would be open to talking to Javid David, or whatever his name is, the Home Secretary now. You'd be more interested in talking to Sadiq Khan. You'd be trying to pull a cross-party fucking coalition to fucking sort out the ideas of what's fucking going on in the country, especially in London as the capital, so to speak. Even though it's apparently worse in the Shires because the drug dealers moving into there. Apparently, I'm only going on apparently because the BBC told me to. But if you've got people that are getting shot, fucking, it's almost every other day now where you hear somebody getting shot or gunshots being fired. It's fucking, it's amazing to me for a country that's got absolutely no guns, apparently, that has no fucking idea on letting anybody have any guns, bar farmers and actual hunters and whatever. It's a case of how are they getting their guns? Obviously, it's illegal. So how are we going to protect ourselves against guns? We're going to use the police. But our police don't have guns, so how are they going to fight people with guns? Oh, they're going to call in our version of the SWAT. Well, okay, well, that's going to take fucking half an hour to an hour for them to get here. They're in a fucking car doing a drive-by. How the fuck are they going to catch them?
Do you know the other thing is the whole point in this country of the police not being armed is that the citizenry were supposed to be armed so that they could complement the police. Because it was, everybody could own a firearm, but it was taboo to carry it in public. But everybody had them. So if somebody's running down the street shooting a gun, it doesn't take any time for the person to walk back into their shop, get their gun, and run down the road with the police. It was community policing. The police would have their whistle and their baton, and you had the people, the citizens with guns, because they had a Peterloo, a big massacre where they were policing with soldiers and they had to form the police, and it was somebody's idea that no, they shouldn't be armed because that says we're here to oppress you, not protect you. And there were no gun laws in this country until the attempted assassination of a prime minister. No, I think it was a successful one, actually. Anyway, so Yeah, that's why I'm saying they really need to consider, if they're serious about helping people, they need to consider throwing out their own prejudices and consider maybe gun control isn't the answer anymore. And I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm saying they need to consider it.
You know, I'm
Do
starting to
some
think,
research.
not to interrupt Crumple Point, but I'm starting to think we have met the Scottish memes. You know,
Yeah, there's a little bit left sometimes, but we need those different views to be able to counter ours. I mean, you're as right as I'd probably have on continuously all the time, and I'm probably quite right myself. Quinn's probably the centrist out of most of us, I would have thought. And it's nice having somebody on that's on a little bit of the left. A little bit. I
oh,
wouldn't say
it wasn't a personal attack or anything. Like I was just saying, it's very comparable to the way memes would talk, very open-minded and
yeah.
willing to go both sides. It wasn't a personal attack. I was just making an observation.
Well, I
I
would like
wasn't-
to say thank you for that, because that my actual, if you were to say what's my gut instinct on principle, what should be done, my gun control argument aligns with ogre. But for the sake of actually helping people, I have to put that to one side and go, well, maybe full regulation is the answer. We need to just work out what works.
See, I'm going to absolutely annoy everybody because obviously David Lammy has decided to tweet about this little situation. So everybody that wants to see what I'm talking about can just listen to what I'm saying and watch the screen. And he says, enough, enough. My heart goes out to the families grieving children and teenagers. So many shattered lives, families, and communities. And if anybody watches my Twitter, and I'm not saying that everybody should, I'm just saying if anybody has, they would notice that I've been making a lot of angry posts towards Theresa May, Savage Javid, and Sadiq Khan, all of them, to try and fucking put their politics aside and actually do something about it, because those three are the ones that do with legislation, policy making, and then obviously with Sadiq Khan actually implementing the policy and reducing the numbers and changing where everybody goes. And then obviously you have the police commissioner of London doing blah blah blah. But it's mainly those three that are doing the things. Surely, if David Lammy, and as everybody's already said, from a political point of view, and yes, we know they're all cunts, so we know that this won't actually happen. But it's just to point out to people that are listening that if they really cared, if they really wanted something to happen, they wouldn't be writing these "please pray for the victims" as they do for a terrorist attack. They would be saying, let's fucking do something about it. Let's change policy. Let's give the police more power. Let's maybe implement stop and searches again, and indiscriminately have a look at stopping everybody that everybody thinks that might be a victim or something that's going to happen. Maybe let's do that for an instance. And that's just one fucking thing.
Yeah, but
it really annoys me.
I agree with you, common sense, but unfortunately, politicians will always think of their political careers first, their financial sets second, and then whatever the people might actually want somewhere down at about 6 or 7.
Yeah, I agree with Voice, because frankly, I think everybody that has the compunction that you just described ends up becoming either a charity worker or a police officer. It would never enter their mind to become a politician.
Yeah. Well, except for me.
Ah, yes, finally, a good one.
Actually, I have to say, of all the people here, and this is, and again, I'm being serious, but of all the people here, the only person I would actually vote for would be Crumple Point.
Hey, take that, you two.
Well, common sense guy, I think he has a decent setup, but his implementation might take a while to get used to. And quite frankly, if I wanted a fascist in charge, I wouldn't vote for Johnson, I'd vote for myself.
Thank you.
I'm just glad that I'm not a fascist, so that
I would be an authoritarian. I would make Hitler look like a fucking Kerber.
Yeah. I can't actually disagree with you there, mate. I can see that. Yeah.
I might have to, make a third of the country disappear, but there would be no crime. It would be peaceful. It'd be fucking brilliant.
See,
What won you over in my campaign pitch voice?
No, you're just very logical. You've got a good mindset, and it helps that you sound like soap for someone who did play that game online for fucking ridiculous amount of hours.
So, in other words, because he's not English and doesn't sound English, you would vote for him because he's not English.
Yes.
You
You're
raised
cunt.
this.
It's as good a reason as any to me.
You're both cunts. Get off my stream. See,
This is part of the plan. Us Scots, we invented soap years ago so that when we did eventually try to seize global domination, it would seem comforting. It would remind everybody of the good days of COD.
The good
they would
days
just,
of smoking
you
weed
know-
and playing on the computer games with your mates.
And they would tick X in the ballot box. Tick
Yes.
X, what am I saying? That would be a spoiled ballot, wouldn't it?
I'd love to see Crumple actually run for office, because he got up and he'd make his speech, and I guarantee you his Twitter feed for the next 3 days would be, "It's fucking soap! It's fucking soap!"
I've kind of moved on from that story and on to the next, because I wanted to read the first line of this the next story, because I wanted to drive home to people that it's the fact that the teenagers, another teenager that was shot in northwest London. Well, actually, no, sorry, I think it may be the same one. Actually, to be fair, I'm not 100% sure on that one, but I think it may be the same one. Yeah, hit by pellets. Yeah, it is the same one. The teenagers was one of 5 people shot in the capital within a 24-hour period. I mean, for somewhere that's not supposed to have any guns, we are not doing well.
Well, what worries me is what you said about the Shires. I've got to wonder how many supposed missing persons or people who kind of live a bit off the grid are buried out in fields in the middle of nowhere because a gunfight's gone down. Nobody's heard about it because it's been in the countryside, and then they're just buried in a grave somewhere, like in between two fields that nobody ever goes in anymore.
They didn't do the statistics on guns. They did the statistics on knives for the Shires, to say you're statistically more likely to get stabbed in Bedfordshire than you are in London. They specifically did it for stabbing. They haven't even mentioned shooting on proper national news, really.
You know what I mean? Like, how many...
I agree,
because
mate.
you could just say I'm fantasizing or I'm paranoid, but I think
No. I live in the
must be-
Shires, my friend. I live in one of the Shires, and it's a case of if somebody wanted to get rid of you, there are so many places you can go missing.
And if anybody even heard the gunshot and it was just one, they would just presume it was somebody pigeon hunting
Yes. And
with a
that happens
permit.
hell
You
of a
wouldn't
lot.
even look out the window to see what it was. You go, oh, there's a farmer's again. And meanwhile, somebody's had their head blown off and stuck in a shallow grave.
Well,
I mean, I have
add
no
evidence.
reason to know that, but
I can add evidence to Crumple Point's point, ironically enough, that there's a reason why, since the quote-unquote ceasefire, the police have been digging out bogs. It isn't for irrigation.
What was it for then?
You didn't get the point.
I did. I just wanted you to say it.
Well, apparently there have been quite a number of bodies found that were disappeared a while ago, and they were found mostly in bogs.
oh, right.
Yeah. So yeah, I can guarantee you, the amount of bodies that are probably hidden of people who are quote unquote missing or ran away, and I guess would probably be staggering.
Well, I mean, that's what gets me is if all the crime things on the TV is like, oh, murder in the big city, but frankly, a quick knock on the back of the head, stick them in a transit van, drive 100 miles out, dump them somewhere, and well, you'd shoot them out in the country. They would need to be just guarded in the van. Stick them out, shoot them, bury them in a grave. Nobody would ever know. So long as you weren't near any running water, a dog walk, or a house, nobody would ever know. And that's to me. I would be very anxious to know how many cases there are of that. Maybe there are none, but I just don't believe that there's not gun crime in this country. I refuse to believe it. It's too easy to make just a zip gun, let alone grab an old undocumented shotgun from somewhere.
Well, I have to say, if you're going to do that out in the country, when you dig the grave and put the body in it, you plant a tree on top of it. And that way, no one's going to dig up a tree to look for a body.
Well, there's a good point, yeah.
Not that I have ever thought about anything like that.
If we're going to go down this line, I can actually tell you how to do this and actually hide the body, but perhaps, this might be something that's best kept as a private conversation, because I'm sure that somebody will start to get twitchy if I detail exactly how to get rid of a body.
It's not the snatch method, is it?
No. It's actually really simple. It just involves killing a dog. But, killing a person, killing a dog's not such a problem.
Yeah, it's funny because we haven't saw your sister in Discord of late. Have you something to tell us?
I neither confirm nor deny.
Well, I think we have an omission there. But I do feel that there is a hell of a lot more crime in itself, especially hard crime that's been happening for years and years. A lot of people always go, well, how come there's no gun crime in this country or that country? Until recently, I didn't even know, because of a Red Eye stream, I didn't even know that you could actually still legally get licenses for guns in Australia. I thought because they banned guns, so to speak, I thought you weren't allowed to buy any guns. But speaking to an Australian on the Red Eye stream, it's a case of apparently they still got licenses and they can still buy rifles of some description. It just goes to show that you don't really know what's going on in other countries until you speak to people that are in those countries.
Well,
you can't say, "Oh, Japan's got no mass shootings and no mass crime whatsoever." Both me and Voice of One use exactly the same citation for this. 21 people got fucking stabbed in one fucking afternoon at a care centre. It fucking happens.
Yeah, well,
there's not a nice big convenient bang and a puff of smoke when you stab somebody, is there? You could probably get your way around a whole building if you were some kind of drug-addled maniac or whatever. And then there's also the thing of, I've heard, I'm not going to stand by this statement because I honestly can't remember where I saw it, so I can't cite it. But I'd heard that they just don't record Yakuza shootings in Japan as crime. Because it's organised crime and it just goes under organised crime deaths. It doesn't go under shootings. So if five guys shoot each other and they all die, and they're all Yakuza, it doesn't go down as a mass shooting.
Yeah, that's true.
I would like to also...
I don't know if that's entirely true.
Common Sense's earlier point is that, remember, you only hear certain news stories. I mean, that's, I think, one of the problems with many people, is they don't understand that crime happens on a daily basis. It's only, like, I'm sure there was countless shootings of adults or people who are involved with crime or something like that where it wasn't as big a deal. But when a kid gets shot, it's a big deal and everybody hears about it. So I don't know why people are so surprised when they hear of these things, because they are happening. You're just not hearing about them because it doesn't help the media sell papers. It doesn't help the politicians' careers. There's certain reasons why certain stories these days get published and others don't. Yeah.
No, you're correct.
Yeah, and I mean, does everybody remember Rhys Jones? That kid back in, it was about 10 years ago, I think. Was caught in the crossfire between two gangs in Manchester.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It might have been Liverpool. It was one of the big cities. I'm going to anger both people for confusing the two. They'll all be spitting. But, these things happen. And that got a lot of news coverage because he was a bystander. But then what happened was all these programs came out saying how rife both Liverpool and Manchester are with gun crime. And then those programs conveniently just all disappeared. Like they were doing all these, panorama investigations and shit like that because everybody was so outraged that that sort of thing could still happen in this country.
Well, that's the same thing that happened at Telford and all the rape cases. They knew about it fucking almost 8 years. The Telford incident, they knew about it. They were reporting on it, the BBC, 8 years before it even got to the point where we got it up to.
Yeah, do you remember Raggy Omar, the BBC reporter?
The name rings some sort of familiarity, but I can't say on top of my head I can remember.
He was their chief correspondent during sort of the first part of the Iraq War, and he was actually reporting, reasonably well on it, reasonably balanced. But it was the usual vanilla media pish. And then he came back and he started doing all these other programs. Like he did one about he was covering the fact. The most recent thing I saw him in was he was covering the fact that almost all of the credit card fraud in Britain comes from Romanian and Bulgarian gangs. Like we're talking 97% or something like that. And he did that program, and then he did a follow-up one about Romania and Bulgaria and how all the prostitution, organised prostitution, is done by them as well. And he showed his evidence. He showed the police statistics. He interviewed policemen. It was all above board. It was all correct. Disappeared for about. I didn't see him again until it must have been 2 years ago. And you got to wonder, did somebody have a wee word with Raggy about what not to cover?
Sounds that way, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because he was, this was a big topic and he was covering it, and everybody was outraged about it, and then he disappears, the topic disappears, and everybody just thinks it isn't a thing anymore, but it's still going on.
Yeah, I just as I'm talking, you'll be able to see that I've put a citation up. I can put it into the side chat and into the chat if people want it, but let me know. This is from the Sun, but the statistics are from the Met Office. For the Met Office for 2017, you have obviously the whole year in 2017, you have just under 37,500 recorded knife offences. And more importantly, you have over, just under 6,700 recorded gun offences across the UK up to September in 2017.
Yeah, but you have to remember, common sense guy, that 6,000 of those come from Northern Ireland.
All joking aside, I think that's fucking quite bad.
Well, Northern Ireland, interesting point. The loyalist side, I believe, I often just call it the Civil War of the Troubles, makes it sound like a bloody bun fight. It was serious shit, like what a fuck, the Troubles. I get troubles with my bowel. That's the fucking Troubles. It was hell on earth for people.
That's how hard we are compared to the fucking mainlanders, government campaigns are just another day, We don't see it as a big deal.
But what they found is, I'm presuming there was lots of this on the IRA side as well, but the British Museum only kept, obviously, the loyalist stuff because it was the police that got hold of it. And it was like, they were like pipe rifles. It was guys with machine shops who had been making functional, reasonably well working, to this day still fire, submachine guns in their time after work because they knew how to work with compressed air canisters and things like that. And so they just altered the design to make it a functioning firearm. And that was obviously, that was reported on because it was a big thing. And you've got to wonder again how much of that's happening in inner cities or out in the countryside now in the form of crime as opposed to like a political struggle. Because they showed how not easy it was, but like how easy it would be for somebody who knew what they were doing to create these firearms. And it scared the shit out of me personally. And made me laugh at the fact, it's all these laws are supposed to protect us, and here you've got, Bob from down the factory's made a bloody Cronin.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was never the problem of making a gun. It's getting the ammunition. You can always, once you get the ammunition, you can always resell it, but you use it again. But actually getting the bullets to begin with was the hardest part.
Hmm.
That's why everybody went to Iran and Libya.
I've just done a little bit more. Fuck's sake, fucking internet. I've just done a little bit more research and I looked a little bit deeper, and I haven't got the right fucking application up. Hang on just a second. And I will show you that the statistics that their son was actually citing do not include Ireland of any degree whatsoever. So as you can see now, I'm talking. I've got the statistics up, and this is from Parliament itself. So probably skewered anyway. But recorded firearm offences in the 12 months ending 31st of March 2017, there are a total of 6,375 non-air firearm offences recorded in England and Wales. This year, an increase of 23% on the 5,182 offences recorded during the year ending March 31st, 2016. So, as you can see, it's quite evident that it's actually around about the same sort of figures for the last 7 years, maybe 6 years. Source there from the ONS, just to prove that the legend obviously actually only occurs for England and Wales. So that doesn't even include any of the troubles from Northern Ireland or anything else like that. That's just literally for England and Wales, which is 6,375 firearm offences in the UK alone, or England and Wales alone. Sorry.
I would like also to just on the article. It's really interesting reading the final article you've shared, because it elaborates on the area. It's saying the area was known for drug trafficking, and the drugs were being sold out of an alley that Scotland Yard had boarded up. So instead of policing the place, it's the back alley of a police station, and instead of policing the place, they boarded it up, and the gangs just moved in to the police station.
Yeah.
So tragically ironic. And then, our Lord and Saviour Sadiq has said, this cannot be tolerated. And it's like, mate, we're not saying you're tolerating it. We're saying you're actually incapable of doing anything about it. That's why we're annoyed at you. We don't think you're fine with this.
Exactly. Exactly. I find it quite interesting that the type of offensive that are committed is criminal damage, VATP, which, if I'm honest, because there's no actual key for it, I'm not actually sure what VATP is. So I'm being honest, I don't actually know. So if anybody wants to tell me, then please do. Oh, violence against the person. Sorry, I see that at the fucking top. Type of firearm offences by fire type. There we go. Violence against the person. So that's basically shootings then. So shootings is just under 2,000. Robbery is just over 1,500. That's a lot of fucking people getting shot.
Yeah, we only had 61 shootings in 2017, but they were weighed up by 29 bombing incidents. So
I don't know.
Try harder.
Well, we need to ban those bombs.
Yeah.
Bomb control now.
It's funny how there hasn't been a campaign about that. We campaign against guns, but no one campaigns about bombs and stuff.
I think
easier to make, might I add.
The bombs are just not supposed to be used. But yeah,
the irony of that though being that if somebody has a gun, they could probably shoot a bomber.
Yeah, that's true.
He can set his bomb off, but you can't really stop a gunman with a bomb without killing everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. ISIS thing seems to have found a way. You just run at them and push a button.
Yeah, but
this is another thing with the knives. Is the guy that attacked Westminster? Like, we should still be talking about this.
Yeah.
Imagine somebody attacked the White House with a knife successfully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, again, this shows how fucking wimpy you are, because the last person to attack our parliament over here, Stormont, did it with hand grenades. So, just saying, You're all a bunch of fucking pussies.
Oh,
You guys are like the how they make soft drinks with concentrate as
Yeah.
you guys. You're the same essential drink, but just concentrate.
yeah.
It's still an
Concentrated a
attack
little
on the
bit
Parliament.
harder.
It's the same idea, but with a grenade.
See,
I'm sorry I feel the need to one up people here, but you know, have to be
I like-
prideful in what we're good for over here.
just escalation, sheer escalation with bombs. See, I like this little point where it says underneath the actual key that is there. It says types of firearms used, and it's still handguns that are at the highest remained and commonly used. But yet
Oh.
they're the ones that actually have the most stringent ban on the UK, to the point where legally you're not actually able to carry a handgun at all. You're allowed to carry rifles and shotguns, but technically you're not allowed to carry a handgun at all. I think that's fucking interesting, to be honest. Does anybody want me to share this with anybody so they can use it or anything, or that goes for the chat as well?
Just drop it into live chat, and that way people can make their own choices.
No, I want them to ask for it. I want them to beg. I want them to
Beg
beg.
for it, peasant.
I want them to beg, and I want them to take it to AIU and fucking to tell him that fucking we still have gun problems in fucking countries that are not allowed to have guns. So
Common sense. You do know everyone else has Google as well.
I do.
You know the thing that's so disingenuous about it though, is people compare, say, America and Britain, and it's like that. America's fucking huge. You need to compare America and all of Europe if you want a fair comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a third of a billion people.
To be fair, if I'm going to go on AIU's actual argument, I love the fact that he states that for any Western democracy that he would take away guns, but as soon as it comes to the South Africa question, by his own admission, he would say that he would have a gun at that point. And it's like, well, okay, then, well, you can't be an absolutist then. So you believe that there is instances when you should have the gun. That's what the Second Amendment is for, to stop the tyranny of governments and to the tyranny of people trying to take your own stuff. So by the fact that you have the admission of saying you accept what's happening in South Africa, you would accept that premise in your own country. So what's your argument? I just find that funny, that's all.
I don't disagree, mate. But, you know, it's all about hypocrisy, and humanity's wonderful at that.
Yeah, we definitely are fucking wonderful at hypocrisy.
One thing I'd thought about as well is with gun culture is in America. There's this. I mean, if you want to see it, just go on any gun YouTube video, and people are so anal about it, and rightly so. They're deadly weapons about gun safety, gun responsibility, blah blah blah. And I was thinking it's sad because before the ban, this country, people had been free to carry any firearms they wished for a couple 100 years.
Yep.
And then that was taken away. So the thing is that regardless of what you believe gun control, whether it be right or wrong, it's the fact that it's been taken away for so long. If you were to reintroduce it, it could well be an utter disaster because people have forgotten how to be responsible with weapons.
Exactly.
And people haven't grown up around them, and people would just buy one and then panic shoot somebody that had wolf whistled them in the street. Imagine one of these Jigglypuffs with a gun. Jesus. We've lost that air of responsibility. So even if you're, like myself, quite anti-gun control, the problem I always have is that as a thought experiment, whenever I think of reintroducing them, I'm like, no, it'd be a fucking disaster. So on principle, I think it's something we should all have, but if it actually happened, I think it would be a complete mayhem.
It's a possibility. I mean, the people of using the Jigglypuff or whatever on that aspect, they wouldn't actually really have guns. It would only be people that are willing to defend themselves that would actually have guns in the first place. Which means that probably around about 70 to 80%, and I'm estimating or guesstimating, would actually go and learn how to actually look after yourself, look after the gun, make sure the gun's in a holster or whatever, concealed carry or whatever. It's a case that people would learn how to do that. Gun shops would start popping up. The areas where you'd be able to learn how to shoot, how to look after the guns would come up, and generalized capitalism would take over, and it would be similar to how America is.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I don't want to presume about anybody's situations, but I've lived in several council schemes in my time, bad ones, and the idea of people there having access to firearms who just do not give a shit about anybody around them or their own lives, and them having guns, having never had a gun before, it seems like asking for trouble to me.
Yeah, but surely there would be background checks, the same as it is in America or in most states to do with America. There would be some form of background checks, and any form of felon wouldn't be able to have any sort of form of guns whatsoever. Surely there would be some control to it.
Well, it depends. I mean, some of these people I'm thinking of are just, young men with no record, but who are just fucking nuts as well, or young women for that matter.
No, definitely the women. I'd say the women would be more of a problem than the men.
Well, I mean,
and that's not to do
with... if you've seen drunk women getting into fights.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was just about to go.
Imagine if they had a 22 in their purse at the same time, it would be No,
I understand that. That's exactly where I was about to go. The fact that where men generally would probably have fisticuffs, women are vindictive creatures by nature. And that's not me being sexist. That's me pointing out an obvious observation by the fact that they don't throw punches. They pull hair and scratch, and they generally look to deface the person that they're fighting against. So that in itself proves the fact that they probably would do whatever it took to win. And if they've got, as you said, a 22, 38 or whatever in the purse, then they're going to shoot the fucker.
Yeah, I genuinely think they would. But I don't think that would be the case if the guns had never been taken away in the first place. That's my issue, is I think if they'd always been a constant, people would know how dangerous they were. And like I said, it was taboo to actually carry one in public. Like it was like going around naked. You just wouldn't do it. I mean, it was done, but it was not done commonly. Even if and not everybody even bothered buying them because they had a police force that actually fucking looked after them, so they didn't feel the need to buy one.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that that's gone, the police force has eroded. If you were to reintroduce them.
I was going to say that would be a problem nowadays. We don't actually have a police force that generally looks after our best interests anymore. I mean, you do make excellent points where if you were to reintroduce the guns, there would be slight problems and there would be slight adjustments, but people would adjust. Yeah,
I always come at it. I agree with what you're saying. I just always come at it from the point of view that what if I was one of those adjustments? What if it was me or my family that was one of those adjustments? That would not be an acceptable risk for me, if that makes sense.
Then I would have to go on to the side of the Americans on that side. Sometimes the tree of liberty has to be bathed in blood to make sure that we preserve our liberty.
I would say
there is that.
This gun thing, basically the first 2 years, emergency rooms would be filled with 18 and 19-year-olds with missing fingers or toes. And then you'd probably see them realize, okay, we have to at least try to be responsible for these things. There would be that oh shit period where, the builders would probably get a big influx of customers with, holes in walls, holes in doors, just people, trying them out for the first time. But yeah, I'd say after a time, would come to actual realization that they are dangerous.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think when push comes to shove, it's definitely a thing of, I think people should have access to them, definitely. I think when people are arguing this fact, particularly libertarians and people like that, hardcore conservatives, they aren't actually taking the argument and using it in our country because we're talking about a reintroduction, not...
Exactly.
It's like reintroducing wolves. You can't talk about are wolves good for the environment in the general sense because you're talking about reintroducing something that has not been there for a long time. And the environment has changed since then.
No chavs don't get guns. That's my only point.
But to be fair,
Or
if
you could
put
even
it
take
up
it a
to-
step further and have shooting lessons in schools.
They don't even do that in America, do they?
They used to.
Yeah, they don't now. And that's the point that we're going on. You have to make sure that we do it properly. The thing is that it would be a generational thing where after the first generation that is introduced, it would be treated better. But the thing is, if you don't want people from council members and sorry, not council members, council estates, for instance, getting it, then make the guns expensive to begin with, and then lower it after 15 years or 20 years. That's the easiest way of dealing with it. Make sure that, unfortunately, poor people wouldn't be able to buy them, so to speak.
Well, a decent shotgun's going to set you back about 800 quid.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're already quite prohibitively expensive, and so that is another factor. Even a good handgun. Are handguns not slightly? Are they not more expensive than shotguns?
There would be,
Yeah, because they're more complicated mechanically. So I was thinking, would they not be more expensive? But so there is that. I've not considered that fact as well. Is there might not be as much tumult as I'd expected. But yeah, no. Like as far as principle, as far as philosophy is concerned, I'm on the side of Ogre of just like fucking have them in petrol stations for all I give a shit.
Yeah,
But
that's
if we're-
the best idea ever. Let's have a flammable object that produces a flying fucking flammable object into a petrol station. That's the best idea ever.
well, actually, science, if you've actually watched the science of that, yeah, that doesn't happen. You could literally shoot a fucking steel gas counter all day and it wouldn't spark.
Guys, did you not hear about the bank in Texas that when you went in and opened a bank account, they would give you a gun of your choice to walk out the door with?
Aye, that was a
Is there
free
anything
rifle.
nervous?
Sorry.
Well, not really, because the first thing I would do with my gun is put it in their throat and say, right, pay up.
You do realize that they weren't providing you with bullets.
Cheap bastards.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to end the stream. I mean, we've been going for a good 2 hours now. Shall we do our final words? If we go Crumple Point first, and then Voice of One, and then Johnson Quinn, and then myself.
Alrighty, well, just want to say, first of all, thank you for inviting me on. I do appreciate it very much. I hope I have been a good guest. And the thing I would like to close with is, I guess the theme of tonight has been about communities and security in that sense of people need to look after each other. People need to have a big drive towards community policing again. And have the citizens of the country need to have agency again. You know, you need to have that sort of neighborhood watch mentality, and the police need to be more autonomous again rather than these desk jockeys. You need to look into your news and look at the language they're using and look at what they're not telling you and look at where the money's coming from. And that would probably conclude my final word.
Thank you very much.
First, I would like to say thank you, Crumple Point, for being on. I was holding my copy of the COD trilogy and almost flopping, but I held myself, from doing so. Common sense guy, fuck you. I don't care if you invite me again. Crumble, could you put your link to your channel in the side chat, please?
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
No, I would agree completely with Crumple Point, except that I would go one further and be more, what would you say, the old school Texas way. Basically, if a stranger enters your community, make them leave. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Okay, my turn. Actually, mine's quite simple. I'd like to say thank you, I think, CSG, that you think I'm centrist. How fascinating. Okay, you'll go.
Well, I suppose I'd better have addressed that to begin with. The reason why I say that you are a centrist is because, let's be honest, Voices One is very far right, but not all right. I'm right-ish, and from what you actually say and what you present is generally a centrist argument. And the way that Crumple Point today has obviously gone across is a case of a moderate left to centrist argument. That's just the way that I've perceived it. Doesn't mean that I think that you're a centrist in general. I know you're a fascist cunt. But that's besides the point. I'm actually really happy that we had all three of you on today. I actually quite enjoyed the stream. I had a good laugh. Some very hard stories that we got through today, especially obviously with the one in Sweden, and then talking about other bits and pieces with Telford and that. Again, I say it most streams nowadays. It's a case of we still need to talk about it. We can't normalize it. These type of things are not normal. And the more that they keep on pushing this in the media and keep on pushing it to say and pretend that it is normal, the more that we have to push back by saying, no, it's not fucking normal. And the fact that you're reporting on it and classifying it as normal is the problem. It's the same thing as when Sadiq Khan actually come out and said that you have to, if you live in a big city, then you have to be bar and bar with fucking terrorism. No, you don't. That's not what happens. That's not what life is. It never happened before, and we have to talk about the reasons why it's happening. And there might be correlations between the people that we're letting in. The rise in anti-Semitism, the rise in fact that violent crime is going up, for instance. The fact that we can't get doctor's appointments. And no, I'm not blaming everything on fucking illegal immigrants. I'm saying if you overpopulate a population, that population can't use the facilities that are there. That means that the police cannot facilitate and look after the areas that they're in. It's fucking common sense to use fucking puns and shit. It is literally common sense. If you have more people in an area that's depleting the resources, not everybody's going to be able to use those resources. And it's the same thing for everywhere. And the more that people keep on pushing this idea that this is normal and these type of things are normal, the more that we need to push back. That's all I'm saying. We had a fucking freedom march, whether you like Sargon or like the other people that have gone down there or not. It's the fact that even though it was classified as a freedom march, you still had people going down there to say that this is hate and hate speech. Now, as I said, it doesn't matter if you agree with Sargon's points or Count Dankula's points or whoever's points that's went down there. It doesn't matter about that. It's the point of freedom of speech. And people are trying to change it, saying, no, it's a day of hate. It's just, don't believe what the media says. Do your research. As Crumple Point said, follow the money. Generally, that's where you find out where everything's fucked up. So with that being said, thank you very much. I'll speak to you all again real soon. And bye for now.